Welcome to UPLEVEL, Real Health, Real Talk with Dr. Jenna Blasi. I'm Dr. Jenna. I spent years crafting ways to help women thrive, and I want to help you do the same. On this podcast, we dive deep into health at every level, focusing on the mind, the body, and the spirit. This is where real conversations meet transformational wellness. We'll be talking about all the things that truly matter, from nutrition and fitness to lifestyle, mindset, and personal development. Plus, the real deal on managing stress and navigating menopause. So if you're ready to elevate your health journey with authentic, transformative insights, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome back to UPLEVEL. I'm Dr. Jenna, and today we're going to wrap up the month by discussing what actually works when you strip away the noise, right? When we remove the noise, the trends, the testing, the overcomplication that we've discussed, the fundamentals of health are not mysterious. They're just hard to commit to consistently. And so in my conversation with Dr. Jordan Robertson, we talked about how confusing health can feel when there's so much conflicting information. So I want to bring this back to what actually matters. And we did that a little bit in that episode as well, when you strip all of that away. All right. My goal is for those of you who feel like you've tried everything, diets, supplements, testing, protocols, and you still don't feel like you're where you want to be, that this episode will bring you clarity, that you feel that you can stop chasing new solutions and refocus on what actually drives results, understanding on a deeper level why the basics work. They work. And I hope that you feel relief and clarity and direction. Because the truth is, and Dr. Jordan and I talked about this, most people don't need something new. They need clarity and structure on what actually works. So looking at what we've talked about this month, we've talked about how health feels confusing and that maybe everything seems to work sometimes. And I really loved the conversation where Jordan talked about what does that it works mean? What are the outcomes that we're going for? And looking at a lot of times when we say, well, this isn't working, what does that mean? And typically, there is actually a lot that is really improving and getting better, but maybe we're just focused in one specific area. So you can go back and listen to that episode from last week, which turns out was my 75th episode, and I didn't realize that, which is pretty exciting, and I should have announced it. But and also looking at like when personalization has gone too far, right? So we've looked at all that. It's confusing. Personalization has maybe gone too far. Everything seems to work sometimes or in some ways. So what happens when we strip all of that away? So the first thing I want to discuss is why the basics get ignored. Why do they get ignored? They're not sexy. They require consistency, not novelty, not shiny new toy. They don't provide instant feedback. Often. Sometimes they do, but often they don't provide instant feedback. And we like that quick fix, right? And they feel too simple to be the answer. And so there's a lot of people online trying to tell you that it has to be this and you have to do this and you're missing these nuances. Simple doesn't mean ineffective. It often means foundational. And one of the things that I often give talks about is putting together these foundations in a structure, in a within a strategy that works. Because, for example, I do use the analogy of a recipe. You can have 4 of the 5 ingredients for the cake, but if you're missing that one, and again, this could be a foundational thing, the cake's not going to be the same. It might seem like, hey, I don't have to move my body and I can still be okay, but you're missing a foundational ingredient. And then the other aspect is maybe the order and the way in which you put those ingredients together. And so if you like put some of the ingredients for a cake together and then baked it and then got it out and then added some more, that wouldn't work the same. And so I see people doing extreme things and I see them missing foundations and doing things in an order that they're like going after something that's not actually a root piece of what's going on and what's causing the issues and what the foundations are. So what actually works? Muscle. Talked about muscle, I think, all of April. Dr. Jordan mentioned movement. She said if she had to strip it all away, she wishes people would move. Like that would be the thing, that would be the needle changer for most, which is interesting because I feel like in the, we hear a lot like abs are built in the kitchen, right? They're not actually built with your workout, but muscle is one of the most powerful drivers of long-term health, period. It's important for your metabolic health. It's important for your insulin sensitivity. It's important for your body composition. It's important for aging. So it's a longevity tool and necessity. I should say, not just a tool and a necessity for graceful aging, for avoiding frailty, for avoiding sarcopenia. And many women are trying to fix, quote unquote, fix their metabolism without building muscle. Number 2, metabolic stability. Stable energy, stable blood sugar, stable fueling patterns. These matter more than perfection. Stable meaning not constant up and down, binge and restrict, crash and burn, but regular meals. Adequate protein, not under eating, and avoiding extreme restriction cycles. I've talked to a few people recently who said, I feel like I would have to eat next to nothing and drink only water to release any weight. That means that you're like, that shouldn't be the case, right? We shouldn't have to be in this extreme restriction just to get results. And that's not sustainable. So even if somebody did that and they released weight, they're going to gain it back because it's not sustainable. So looking at just these patterns of optimizing our metabolism and how key these are, and going back up, like muscle is a piece of offering that metabolic stability, right? And it's going to help with blood sugar and insulin sensitivity, etc. But we also want adequate protein, adequate fiber, regular meals, making sure we're not under fueling. And then when it comes to supplements, I'm going to say you cannot out supplement inconsistent fueling. So, and if you try to out exercise inconsistent fueling, you'll end up very, very tired and not in a good state. Okay, sleep. Sleep is not optional optimization. Just like muscle. Sleep is not optional. It's not optional for optimization. It is a biological requirement. Sleep is necessary for proper recovery, for your hormones, for your appetite regulation, and for resilience in general. And many people are trying to fix daytime problems without addressing their nighttime physiology. I've given other podcasts on sleep and the importance of sleep. We make poorer food choices. We don't eat as well. Maybe we're too tired to move our body. Like it affects all the other things. So again, these aren't the sexy biohacking things. It's like, let's build some muscle. Let's fuel and eat in a way that helps with metabolic stability. Let's make sure we're guarding our sleep. And then number 4, consistency. Because we can do some of these things some of the time, but are we doing them more often than not? Or are we not doing them more often than not? And phases of like, well, I went to the gym for a month or 2, and now I haven't for 3 months, or I got myself in bed and didn't doom scroll 2 nights this week, but the other 5 nights, it didn't follow any type of a routine. So what you do regularly matters more than what you do perfectly. And I would say, there is no perfect, first of all, but we've got to stop striving. Again, that all or nothing. Oh, if it's not perfect, then forget it. And we're beating ourselves up and we go into a shame cycle and all of these things. No, just keep coming back. Just keep showing back up. Build that consistency and build your identity around consistency. So adherence to the standards you're trying to set, to the routines that you know would change your life, that matters more than intensity. Journaling for 30 minutes once or twice a week versus, say, journaling with intention for 5 minutes every day or more days than not, you're adhering to something. You're building integrity. You're building a routine over intensity. That's kind of a weird kind of a weird example because we don't typically consider, like, journaling shouldn't be intense, but apply it to exercise, apply it to intensity of like, I have to be in bed by 9 o'clock. And it's just like, and then the kids are screaming and it's not doable. And then the next thing you know, it's 11 versus maybe if you planned on 10, that could happen with ease, on a regular basis. Routines are going to be better than resets. I've mentioned before, I've heard like some prominent doctors online, talk about, I just detox and retox. Like, why are we constantly needing to reset? Routines win over reset. Sometimes we need resets. I've done different types of, little gut reset and things for myself, but routines over time make that less necessary. And you're going to get bigger, like greater results, because what the reset becomes is this on or off. You're in or you're out, instead of just keeping on track. It's like, I went off the rails and I'm going to reset, and then off the rails and I'm going to reset. So routines over resets, and long-term behavior. Long-term behavior. Health is built on the things that we're repeating, not the various things you're trying. So many people I see, they've tried this protocol and this supplement and this, and they're not getting anywhere with their health, and they've done all these labs and all of this. They're still stuck. They're still in the same place. It's built on what you're repeating and what you're consistent with. And these foundations are game changers. They are truly game changers. Now, I think I like to talk about the nervous system. Stress matters. Mindset matters. Chronic stress changes how the body responds to everything. So let's say you're aiming to sleep well and you're in the gym building muscle. If you are chronically stressed, maybe you're a caregiver, maybe you have a job that you don't like, that you're constantly feeling stressed about, it is going to affect your recovery capacity, your digestion, your sleep quality, your hormones, and your perceived effort. Everything feels harder if we're allowing ourselves to feel stress. Stress is out there. Stressful events will occur. That's life. But how we respond to them really determines how we walk through life. I love, I don't know if I've told this on this podcast before, but there's this story about a disciple of a spiritual teacher, and they're sitting in some type of a cafe, and suddenly there's like an earthquake outside, or, there's all this chaos and people are screaming and everybody runs out of the restaurant. And then, but the spiritual teacher stays seated, and then his student comes running back in, or her student, and says, "What are you doing? What are you doing? Like, we have to get out of here." And the teacher says, "When there's chaos, you run outside. I go within. I run within," or, something like that. And so I love that, because there will be chaos. There will be lots of outside things. And the more that we buy into that and go into that and think about it and feed into it, the more we actually attract of that in our lives. And so we all know, like, if you're on a plane and you hit turbulence, you want a captain who's calm. If you're on a ship that hits an iceberg, you want a captain that's calm, not a captain running around going, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. So stress and the nervous system, it changes everything. And so how you respond changes how your body responds. And so we have to do the management of that system, or address. It sounds kind of weird. We have to do the management. We have to address our stress, our nervous system, our mindset. To me, these kind of go all together, because, when I teach mindset, the thoughts that we have in our head become feelings. And those feelings go into the body and they create a vibration and they affect our whole being. And so it's really back to the mindset and how we perceive different events. Because the same thing can happen to 5 different people and they have 5 different responses to a very similar or same event. And so if we're not addressing this, we're not going to recover properly. We're probably not going to sleep properly. We might be doing things in the gym that are just adding potentially extra strain. I mean, hopefully working out feels like a part of your stress management. But even the perceived effort has an effect on your nervous system. That's what's interesting about the adrenals. Like when they get us into fight or flight, and the way that the amygdala responds to like perceived threat, our body, our being doesn't know the difference between like a life or death or being chased by a bear and like, oh my gosh, my phone isn't working or my phone fell in the toilet and I'm freaking out. It doesn't know the difference. And so that's that perception piece. So what is your perception of what's going on? What is your perception of the efforts that you're putting into life? And when you switch your perception, right, when we change the way we see things, the things we see change. I'm botching that quote a little bit, but perception changes a lot. So if your system doesn't feel safe, it won't respond the way you expect, no matter what protocol you use. So let's say you've gone through like a whole, really great protocol for your weight, and it's got these foundations, but your system doesn't feel safe. Weight can be safety. Weight can be safety, and we're just holding on to that as protection. So that's just one example. But we're not going to get the benefits of some of these foundations if we don't include stress management. Again, if you go back to that first podcast I gave on the 4 pillars of health, number 4 was sacred space, meditation, prayer. We could call that stress management, quiet time, etc. That's the kind of reset that we want as part of our routine. Resetting the nervous system throughout the day. If you've had stress or felt prone to going into stress mode, then breathe. Do something throughout the day with some regularity where you're actually coming back to quiet, like that story I probably told in one of my stress podcasts about the production company in Hollywood that every hour a gong would ring and everybody had to stop what they were doing and put their phones down or, get off the computer, put their pens down, whatever, and just spend a minute being intentional, spend a minute breathing and calming their system. I love that. I think we can set those alarms on our phone. So if we look at why people stay stuck, I want to kind of tie all this together. If you're still stuck, what I see often is people keep switching strategies. I just talked to my members recently about this, and I was teaching the will, one of the higher mental faculties, and the difference between the will and willpower. So we keep switching strategies. You chase new inputs instead of actually stabilizing the foundations. You underestimate the value of consistency, and maybe being too complex, just going into a complexity and maybe thinking that that's the way to go, like overestimating the value of complexity. Like, oh, I need to know exactly what supplement is right for my DNA and take it at 9 a.m. around this meal, and like creating this complexity that's actually sabotaging, that actually won't benefit in the long run because it's a pain in the butt to continue to do, and then not giving things enough time. I've said to my people I work with once, I said, what if nothing happened, nothing changed for 6 months, and on day 1 of the 7th month, everything shifted? Now, for the most part, things are going to change, right? That would be unusual, that you're doing all the things and nothing changes for 6 months. That would be unusual. And going back to what Jordan and I talked about outcomes. Well, maybe the scale hasn't changed, but your sleep is better, your joy is better, you have better like self-esteem from what you're doing. Like, what are we looking for when we say that something's not working and we just bail on it? But that is what I see, is people don't give things enough time. We get into like an entitled place of like, well, this should have happened by this time. Imagine if we did that in business. You're launching a business, you're in the red for a little bit, and you're like, oh, I can't believe this isn't working. And you just close the doors rather than keeping that vision and knowing you just have to fine tune things. And if it's a good idea, which these foundations are, that it will work, if you give it enough time. So what does this look like in real life? Well, boring but effective looks like this. So let's say you have a boring but effective week. You've done your strength training 2 to 3 times. You've had regular meals with protein, with fiber. you've gotten decent sleep most nights, you're walking and getting other forms of movement regularly. I mean, ideally, if you could work out 2 to 3 times a week and then be moving every day, getting steps in, moving your body, that would be excellent. I don't even remember what study it was. I'd have to go back and find it, but I saw something a while back that said that just doing 1 hour, let's say, of intense exercise in the morning and then doing nothing but sitting, like doing nothing else for the rest of the day, actually wasn't as good for the body as like doing something throughout the day. Now, I'm not 100, I didn't look at the study. I don't remember, like, was this was this a good study? But it just got me thinking, and I was like, oh, geez. So ideally, we do know that the more movement, the better. All right. So getting that strength training in and then moving your body, walking, Pilates, yoga, steps, whatever those other things are, and managing your stress load. All right. That's a boring but effective week. You've strength trained, you've moved your body, you've had regular meals with protein and fiber, you're getting up and down. Like if you sit at a desk all day, like take those breaks, and you're managing your stress through journaling, through intention, through prayer, through meditation, through breathing, etc. And again, similarly, like you could just have a practice for that in the morning. You could just have a practice for that in the evening. Ideally, it's sprinkled throughout the day. I love the idea of bookending the day with a routine that's calming, with a routine that's intentional, with a routine that's filled with gratitude, and then having those check-ins throughout the day so that it's not just the day takes over and we're just blown in the wind of circumstance, right? So the goal isn't to do everything. Again, you could, if you're not doing any of those things, pick one. But if you've got a few dialed in, then add the next one. Get it consistent, get it going, and then add the next one. And, you know, I said managing stress load at the end. All of those things are going to help with stress, strength training, moving your body, decent sleep, eating well. All those things help with stress. So those things feed into each other, no pun intended. So the goal is to do the right things consistently, right? Not do everything, not be perfect, but do the majority of these foundations on a consistent basis. Most people don't need a new, fancy, sexy plan. They need to trust and commit to the one that actually works. And this is where I'm big on mentorship, because many of us know what to do. What is the difference between knowing what to do and really getting to the next level is often working with coaches, working with mentors, working with a trainer. And so I know that all of the biggest advancements I've had in my life, I had teachers, I had mentors, I had guides. So it's not the newest, latest, sexy thing on the block. It's the foundations, and then work with the people that are going to help you get consistent and help you implement them in a strategic way for the best results for you in your life. So I'll just close with a couple reflection questions. What are you avoiding doing by searching for something new? What do you already know works, but you aren't doing it consistently? And what would happen if you simplified instead of added? Where can you simplify and really dial in some of these things? All right. The extremes are not where it's at. Health isn't built in extremes. And sometimes it's taken down, honestly, in extremes. All right. It's the consistency. It is the consistency that's going to build your health habits and a strong foundation and pillars of health. So when you strip away the noise, what works is often what you've been kind of pushing aside and overlooking. So you've got this. You can do this. Work with the people that see you, listen to you, can help guide you, can help strategize some of the nuances. There's nuances of what your particular hormones are doing, where your gut health is, etc. Those are absolutely key pieces, in my opinion, as well. But these foundations, they're not at the replacement of these foundations. They work with these foundations for you to get the best results and become the person that you want to become. and that you can living your best life, whether you're working or in retirement. So thank you so much for joining me, and find a way to look at this that feels like relief. Take this episode and strip away the noise in your own head and decide what your one next step is. And then when you've got that dialed in, then you add the next. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time. Thank you for joining me on this episode of UPLEVEL, Real Health, Real Talk. I hope today's conversation inspired you to take the next step in your health journey, one that nourishes not just your body, but your mind and spirit as well. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you found value in today's episode, please leave a review. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep thriving. And remember, true wellness is a journey, and you are on the right path.